speed tip in my speed tip series. This one's just going to be kind of an overview of the layers panel real quick. I have noticed in the many times that I've helped people that it seems like there's a couple things that are a little misleading in the layers panel and people don't quite grasp at first. So maybe if I just go over, it'll kind of help you using Illustrator understand what's going on in the layers panel. Some of the stuff you might know, some of it might be new to you. Who knows? Okay, so I'm going to draw out a couple shapes real quick just so I have some stuff going on over here in the layers panel, and that'll help me kind of describe what we're looking at. So if you don't see the layers panel on your screen, you just go to Window and go down to Layers. Whenever you're missing a panel, just make sure you go to the Windows and in Window menu and you look for it there. I work on a Mac. If you work on a PC, every time you hear the word Command, it's going to be Control for you or right click. And when you hear Option, it's going to be Alt for you. So Command is Control and Option is Alt. Okay, so we have these three shapes and they are all in one layer, and we can see that here, and we're going to go over real quick. So very simple. This is really elementary, but this is a little visible. You can turn off this entire layer. If I spin down the layer, each one of these objects has its own eyeball, so I can turn those on or off. Those are visibility. Next to those are the locks, so I can lock this. So if I lock this star, I no longer can select it or move it because it's locked. And same thing, you can lock a path or an object onto itself, or you can lock the entire layer, or if things were grouped together, I'm going to group these together, we'll go over that in another video, but if I group these together, I can lock the group, okay? So there's the locks, that's very important. Now, here's the one tricky part that I've always found people always seem to hit a brick wall with. If I were to select this, and if you come from Photoshop, this will make sense why it might be a little confusing. If I select this and I hit the delete key on my keyboard, nothing happens. I should be able to delete that. Why is it not selected? This is just for you to maneuver the objects in the layers panel. You're not actually making a selection. The only time you make a selection is when you click this little circle over here or click on the actual object on the artboard. And by the way, this white area is the artboard. The bigger area outside of it is the canvas. So the artboard, so here you would have, I'd be able to select now when I hit the target, this little circle, target or the meatball. When you target a object, it is now selected. So now anything I do, any kind of effects or anything I select, if I change the color, is going to affect only this object because that's the only object that is selected. So you can also select an object by clicking in the empty space that's right to the right of the meatball or target. So if I go like this, I now selected or targeted this square, and just like that. And I can just click, and I can also select the layer, which would select all of the elements in the layer. Same thing, I'll do the group again. I'm going to group these together. I can select the group by clicking the object, the target next to it. I select both objects, or I can select the individual objects inside of the group. Something to note, when you have a group, and I'm gonna go more in detail with groups at a later video, but just I want to touch on this real quick because we're talking about the layers panel. When you have a group and you have other elements in the group, you'll notice that you see how this little square right here is smaller than this square. This is telling me at a glance that I don't have all the elements inside this group selected. And the reason that's good to know is that if this is locked and you go to select the group and you're like, well, oh man, why is only one element from the group moving? Why are the other elements not moving? Because it is locked. And the reason I know it's not selected is because I have a little square here. So if I were to come here and unlock that, and then I target that entire group, now you will see both elements in the group are now selected, and I can move them or edit them and do whatever I want to my selection. So I'm going to ungroup those. Okay. At the bottom, there's some stuff here that we're going to wait off for another video because they're a little more involved. At the bottom here, we had this magnifying glass, which is super helpful. If I select an object on the artboard and I want to see where it is in the stack, now remember, I only have 3 little objects here, but there are some files out there that you might download from a website that'll have hundreds of layers and objects, and they'll be grouped and grouped and grouped and grouped and clip grouped inside of each other. So if you click on one of these objects and you want to find it real quick, you can click that you can click that and it'll bring you to that layer. It's pretty quick. Over here, this plus, this is to add another layer if you want to work in layers. I personally don't work in layers. It's very rare I have more than one layer. That's just me. That's just the way I work. It's my preference. You can have multiple layers. Just a quick little tip about moving elements between layers, kind of cool. You could either select them like we had before. So if these are blue and they're selected, I can drag them up to the new layer. Here's a really cool trick. If you want to move, let's say you have a lot of elements and you're like, okay, I want to move certain elements to this new layer. You can click, instead of like going through and dragging each one of them up, you can click the elements you want. So let's say I just want the circle and the star. I can click those, target those two, and then the little square that is next to the layer 1, if I drag that little square up, anything selected is now moved to the layer above it, just like that. Super easy, super slick, and really comes in handy when you start getting into those files that have hundreds of elements in them and all kinds of stuff going on inside them. You can have subgroups, sub-layers, if you will. So if I have a layer here and I want to click this little thing with the arrow, it creates a sub-layer. So it'll be a layer inside of a layer instead of on its own. Once again, I don't use layers very much. It's very rare you'll see me use layers. The trash can works very uniquely, just like we were talking about with the selection of the blue thing, and I'm going to show you how this works. So here's a perfect example. I have the circle and the star targeted. If I hit the trash can, in your brain you would think, okay, the two things I'm going to delete are the two things that are targeted. It doesn't work that way. If I hit the trash can, the only thing that's going to delete is this element that is highlighted blue, and I'll show you that. Click there, and now you see I still have a targeted object because it wasn't highlighted. Now, I can highlight more than one layer by holding my command or control on a Mac, and I can select non-consecutive elements. What does that mean? That means if I select here, and I can hold the Shift key and do this, but it selects all three. If I want to select the circle and the star, I hold the command or the control key on a PC. I click and then click again, and that'll select non-consecutive elements inside of the layers panel. So now they're both selected. Now if I hit the delete key on my keyboard, those two will go away. Okay? And I can do the same thing if I select them both like this and they're both blue and I hit the trash can, that will also delete them that way. So remember, the object highlighted is used by the trash can. The target is used by the delete key. So if I hit the delete key, like I just did by mistake, it'll delete those objects. Okay? I think that's it for now. I'm not going to talk about too much in the flyout menu. There's a lot of stuff in here, but we don't need to go over that right now. I just wanted to give you an overview of the layers panel because when I start to get into this stuff, I'm going to start saying, okay, let's target this object or that object, and I just want you to know the terminology and what I'm talking about as we go through these speed tips. I hope this helps you out. If you have any questions about the layers panel, shoot me a message or a comment, and I'll try to answer it. All right, see ya.